Episode 30, ladies and gentlemen, the gold standard college basketball podcast. I'm Big Papa. That is Bobby Hoops bouncing up and down. My man got a big dub tonight. Some would say it's Joe Pesci for those who celebrate accordingly. I'm battling the bubble guts tonight. Don't know if this will help or not, but just shout out to the survivors out there.
Brown water's always good for that.
I hid that from Hoops. I didn't want to tell him. I wanted that to be a surprise. And to those of you who end up listening tomorrow morning, whenever you flip this on and see, oh man, new episode, Bubble Guts. All right, cool. First thing I wanted to hear on a Wednesday morning.
Bubble Guts, brown water. I got a cough drop in. I mean, that's my, that's as crazy as I'm getting right now.
That's us, baby. Yeah, December 10th, 2024. We're wrapping up. I mean, you kind of say halfway point. Well, how many games in? We're about 9. I'd say maybe like the first third, if you want to say that.
I think it right now is a big like, hey, we know who the contenders are right now.
Yeah.
Or you kind of know who you are right now. Maybe that's a better way to put it.
Yeah.
We've had about 2 months of the season, getting close to conference play now. It's we're in the thick of it.
Yeah. If you don't know who you are 9 games into the season, you almost got about 2-3 more games to be like, well, you better figure it out because conference play starts beginning of January. So,
yep.
And Arkansas, yes, I scheduled the hate watch. Now, show content comes first, always. Do I have it on in the background? Can I hear them actively?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Yes.
So,
same here. Yeah, they're on.
Hey, this is just to say to guys like Con Man, when you're like, well, we still got the injury bug, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, dude, you've been saying the same thing for the last 6 years. You still got a chance. You're playing Michigan tonight. You probably got another 2 to 3 games. Figure it out, big dog. All right, real quick. Hey, I want to give a shout out to, she might argue that she's not new being a ball knower, but shout out Anna Younger.
Yeah.
Shooting us a text the other day and was like, yo, listen to your episode on a nice job.
She was like training for.
Yeah, I can't relate on the running part.
She was running a 10K.
Yeah.
Running a 10K training. Thought, while I train to run way further than you and I ever could. Let me throw in some college basketball.
The thought of running gives me the bubble guts again. So thank you for listening to us.
Miserable.
Why you were running, training for a 10K or whatever you're doing. But yeah, I love that she was even listening. And I love that she said, hey, quick recap on the Maui tournament whenever y'all get a chance. So here's your recap. Maybe Memphis isn't bad and UConn stinks. Or maybe Memphis kind of stinks because they lost to Butch Jones's Arkansas State basketball team the other day. Who's to say?
I don't think there's really any definitive point you can make about Memphis right now. I think they have all the variance in the world of what they can put forth on the basketball court, as evidenced by beating the defending 2-time national champions and then turning around and losing. Was it losing at home, by the way?
Yes.
Losing at home to Arkansas State. So, I mean, and part of that's kind of college basketball, but at least that has shown what Memphis has been with Penny Hardaway over the last few years. He gets a lot of talent in there, and sometimes that has worked.
Yeah, but you shouldn't be losing a bye game to Arkansas State.
No,
look,
definitely not.
We've talked about it at length in previous episodes last year, yada, yada, of like parity in college basketball. Why do we think that these things keep happening? NIL, transfer portal, just the floor being raised of high school talent, just basketball in general, all that kind of stuff. All that to say is you should not still be losing home games when you were paying the team to show up and basically run a scrimmage against them. I know that firsthand experience, not because I played or coached, but like watching my team lose games to like Evansville, on a Tuesday night, that kind of stuff. Like, shouldn't be happening. And then for whatever reason, like, it is. So all I have to say is, shout out to 1 cent.
To quote our boy Big Cat, they're just kids.
They're just
End
kids.
of the day, they're just kids.
Yeah, they're just kids. I'm not gonna get mad about it, but yeah, they're just kids.
Are these kids? Could these kids have the potential to ruin my Tuesday night? Yeah,
for me, 100%. Maybe.
Yeah, we try to not let that happen because they're just kids.
Yeah, ruin it. Stay up for 2.5 hours past the point I should have went to bed. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Now, could Dan Hurley have a conversation about that?
Whoa.
So for those who are unaware, if you're like, hey, I'll check into college basketball, like, I don't know, March, whenever you want to tap in. UConn they flew all the way across the country to Hawaii, played 3 basketball games and lost all 3. It's kind of awesome.
3 straight days.
Yikes. And Dan Hurley threw an absolute fit. Next home game, gets behind the mic and basically says, hey, I'm not going to do this thing anymore. Like, I'll schedule home and home games or do the thing that's kind of in favor amongst a lot of teams and coaches right now, which is you essentially go play in a 2-game neutral site opportunity, and then you go back home and play a home game as your like third contest in said tournament. So take, for instance, like Kansas and Duke played each other the other night in Vegas. So there's one game. After that, to be honest, I don't remember who either played the following game. It was going to be a nobody. Then they all went home, played a home game. Like, that was considered your tournament. So I understand that's most likely what we're heading to. But all that to say, you still got to show up and play the game. And guess what, big dog? He whined and cried. I mean, my God, that.
I mean, you talk about. I don't know if Dan Hurley, if any, if a lot of people are saying right now that he's, we've got our basketball villain here to point the finger at, and that's the guy to root against now. He's always been crazy. He's always been nuts.
Yeah.
If you've watched enough UConn basketball 100%. Over this, like, he is crazy. But he's never been like you're coming off as such a heel right now. I mean, he cost his team. You could make a strong argument. He cost his team the game against Memphis, getting himself teed up in the final minute. Gave Memphis free points. They end up winning the game because he can't control himself, and he was calling the ref an effing joke and screaming in his face in the final minute. And I know sometimes that, I mean, the refs might let that go a little further, but man, you're saying the magic word out there, screaming in a ref's face. Like, he cost them the game. And then to turn around and say, well, we'll never play in a tournament like that again. Like, hey, buddy, I don't think the tournament's the problem right now. Like, and look, like, we can say all like UConn turned around and went down to Austin, Texas, and beat Texas in Texas on Sunday. So, like, obviously UConn's still really good, but oh boy, was that like major red flags are being waved for UConn after that performance out in Maui, and especially with his reaction and blaming the tournament and still talking about it days later. Like, what an opportunity to motivate your team to, like, hey, we just got embarrassed. Who cares if we won back-to-back championships? Like, it's a new season. This team hasn't won anything yet. How about we focus on that? And wow, UConn.
Yeah, he looked like me when I was like 17 years old in my parents' basement on a Wednesday night, getting really frustrated at whatever Kentucky was doing at that point. And I actually don't know if I may have said it here before. I can't remember. I don't even know if my parents know. At one point, those old school big screen TV boxes that were like,
real deep.
Oh yeah, very girthy, very large, and they also had the like plastic screening on the front of the actual TV screen. Rocking with one of those, I'm getting mad. Take my ball cat off and just launch it at the TV. Bang, middle of the TV, big old crack, and I'm like, I don't really know how I'm going to get away with this one. So, never said anything.
Sounds like an appropriate reaction.
Yeah. So all I have to say is that's kind of what I felt like I was watching in real time at the moment, which was like, dude, I'm not even saying you can't have emotions. You can. You're also the head ball coach, and you have a renewed contract where you get paid. I mean, it's like $6 or $7 million a year at this point. After Kentucky came calling, Lake Show came hollering at you, you almost left. You didn't. So now it's kind of like you're not really fighting as if you've never won anything. You're the back-to-back national champion playing in the Maui tournament. Why are we acting this way? I don't know. It was weird. And yeah, like you have already harped on, it's just way more than what Dan Hurley already does.
Yeah. Yeah. It was.
I think even
the level of craziness for Dan Hurley is already there. This just felt different. This felt like a turn towards something. And I don't know. I think they'll still probably be fine. Like I said, they turned around and went down to Austin and beat Texas on the road. Kind of, beat them pretty good. It wasn't very. It was they won for sure. So, I mean, I still kind of fall into the category of doubt UConn at your own risk. But there's, if anything, there's reason to now.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
We'll see. So Anna, there you go. There's your Maui recap. I guess shout out to Auburn for, going down and winning the Maui tournament. But I think at that point nobody really cared. But maybe other Auburn fans. That's probably
the story was mostly UConn.
Real quick, I just kind of made a couple notes of like, hey, what's happened since the last time we were together, since November 14th. Here's some wins from teams around the league. UT went to the Baha Mar Classic, won that sucker. Shout out to Bama, had a couple wins over Illinois, at North Carolina. Houston in overtime took a loss to Oregon, but it's okay. Looks like Oregon's going to be pretty good. The Cats swept the BBN Invitational, massive tournament that everybody turned out for in that one.
Hang the banner.
Hang it, brother. Cut the nets down. I'll take a trophy. I'll give some credit to A&M. They had a nice win over Creighton. Good job, A&M. Oklahoma had a nice little win over Arizona the other day. Don't know if Arizona's going to be much, but it was nice at the time. I have to we got to say the nice thing because Big Bill got mad the other day at church service with me in the lobby of like, oh, you really going to talk about my, it's like, yeah, okay. Missouri had a really good win over Kansas the other night. Good job.
They beat number 1 Kansas. They did.
And even Dennis Gates, I'll give the guy credit. When he got in front of the mic after the game, he was like, I actually got pretty mad at the staff getting on the microphone. At this point, he had called the timeout maybe with like 5 seconds left. Game's out of reach. It's over. Missouri's won. But he did it so that the Kansas players and staff could like leave the floor if they wanted to so they don't get trampled. But then the person on the microphone gets on and says, don't storm the court. And he's basically like, what the bleep? No, I want them to storm the court. Like, if anybody has forgotten what happened last season, I want this to happen just for camaraderie and to like remember what we just accomplished here because we really need to turn the page. Now, the only people who are really harping on like turning the page, probably me. Like I brought up the fact that it's like, did Dennis Gates save his job the other night. I think so. Big Bill seems to disagree. Then he said, I want a call on the show so I can defend my team. And I'm like, we'll see.
Big Bill's probably asleep right now.
Oh my God. It's usually what old people do. They're asleep before 10 o'clock. So, look, I told Big Bill, you deserve this. You've paid a lot of money for student tuition.
Yes, he has.
You're owed. You were owed. You deserve to see your school, well, the school that you pay a lot of money to, get a nice win. So,
yeah. Good
job, Missouri. Well, again, Dennis saved his job for another year.
Yeah. We'll be watching you, Missouri.
Then the SEC ACC challenge. SEC won in night one, ladies and gentlemen. Like, it was already over. 9-0. You had to win 9 games. It was already over in night one. Who ends up losing in night one? Kentucky did, on the road to Clemson. Okay, switch over to night 2. All the SEC teams win again. You know who lost in that one? Auburn at Duke. Auburn losing at Duke.
By the way, was maybe the game of the year so far.
Oh, it was awesome.
I mean, Kentucky. Well, you could also say that about Kentucky Duke. I mean, but that Auburn Duke game was so fun to watch.
Yeah, it lived up. It was great.
Yeah.
Folks, like, just if you don't like Auburn, I'm sorry. They're
good, man.
They're good. Like, I know Tennessee currently is ranked AP poll number 1, and that's not to knock on them. I think we both would agree the AP poll is like, that's all it is. It's just an AP poll. People vote on it of guys who don't watch college basketball.
It makes sense.
Yeah, it's great. There's people who literally forget to vote and are like, yeah, whatever, put it in for Duke. And they don't care. So all I have to say is Tennessee is ranked number 1 in the country. Auburn is ranked 2. I was going to say, I couldn't remember if it was 3 or, but yeah, Auburn's good.
Well, and especially I think that Duke game. Obviously, we've talked about Janai Broome is going to be a Player of the Year candidate.
Yeah.
But Tahad Pettiford, freshman guard, he lit it up in Cameron Indoor Stadium. I mean, he's scary and is just like unafraid, totally unafraid. Like irrational confidence, which maybe doesn't even need to be irrational because he's so good. But yeah, man, Dukes or Auburn. I'm sorry, they're good. The SEC, the SEC, it just flat out dominated that SEC ACC challenge. Yeah, I know Kentucky lost, and I know Auburn lost too. But I mean, what was it, 14-2? I think was the record, overall record in that challenge. I mean, right now you got Tennessee at number 1, you've got Auburn number 2, Kentucky's 5th in the country, Bama's 7th, Florida's 9th. I think it's crazy.
Yeah, you've got 5 teams in the top 12. That's nuts. And I don't remember what the top 25 is. I think there's probably another 3 or 4.
Ole Miss is 19, Mississippi State's 25, Oklahoma's 13. I mean,
yeah. I think the only team in the league,
and if Arkansas gets rolling or A&M, and this conference is really good.
I think the only team in the league that even has 3 losses is South Carolina. I think everybody else is 2. I mean, I don't even think Vanderbilt has more than 2 losses. So, look, you can chalk it up to scheduling. Kentucky is part of that group where it's like you intentionally scheduled poop state teams. That's fine. Whatever. Like, do what you got to do. You want to get your team figuring out who they are, what they got to do to make a run later in the season. There's nothing wrong with that. You're paying those teams to show up so you can go beat them up. But all I have to say is, like, there's also a reason. I think I saw this stat yesterday or the day before. It was basically like the SEC's overall record combined it's like over 120 wins and 18 losses. That's insane. And for comparison, if you've been around, you've watched ball for long enough, this feels like a very much old Big East conference, meaning just really good. That when we get into conference play, it's not really going to be that shocking if our teams or your team, if you're listening here and you pull for South Carolina, like if your team has 9 or 10 losses because of league play, honestly, it's going to be frustrating, but I really wouldn't get that worked up.
Dogfight.
Yeah. Every single night it's going to be that way. Well, I mean, could I joke about should your team beat South Carolina at this point because they're at the bottom? Sure. Yeah. But once league play starts, it really just doesn't matter, at least in basketball. So
whoever wins this conference is going to, I mean, they're going to have to earn it. This is going to be a dogfight.
Yeah, I think if there is a team out of, say, like the top 4, whoever top 4 is, if one of those teams comes out with 5 or less losses from league play, I'd almost say just go ahead and throw some coin on that team making a deep run in the NCAA tournament, potentially like maybe winning it.
Throw some coins, huh? You a gambler, man?
No, I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm definitely a big fan of telling people, like, bet your mortgage on it. So
you should bet. Yeah, you should bet.
Not you, but if you like needed a guy to say, like, yeah, dude, like push that $5 on him, like, do it.
We need to like cut this clip and send it to like FanDuel or DraftKings and get us a sponsorship. Like, we will push your bets. We will push it.
Yeah. I mean,
like let other people make those decisions.
Yeah. Again, I put out a disclaimer. I don't give a financial advice.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to throw $10 down,
bet the farm.
Dude, it's just money. Throw it down. Who cares? It's not my money.
Yeah, just money.
So all I have to say is last stat real quick before we hop in and break down our individual teams and anything else we want to talk about. Historically speaking, after week 5, any team in the top 12 for the last 20 years has won the national championship. 2 of those teams, Tennessee, Kentucky. Some of those other teams, hoops already listed off, included Florida, Auburn, and Alabama. Hoops. If it's not your team, out of the top 12, if you had to say, I might pick this team in theory as a dark horse to win it, based out of the top 12 coming into week 6 of college basketball, who would you pick? Off the fly.
Man, to me, right now, I think I'd probably pick Duke. I just think as good as they've been incredible to start the season. Obviously, they've had a couple wars with Kentucky and with Auburn, and they've split those. To me, I just think they're already so good right now. And Cooper Flagg, especially, is looking as good as he is right now. Same with Connor Knipple. Those guys are only freshmen, and they're looking as good as they are right now. Come they're only going to be getting better, I think. There's been a few games that you can point to, like Cooper Flagg, a couple turnovers down. He did it in the Kentucky game, kind of looking like a deer in headlights, maybe a little bit down the stretch. But to me, with time, by the end of the season, I just think they are so deep and so talented and big and physical and can run and can. They can. I just don't see a weakness really in Duke. And you could easily say the same thing about Auburn. You could say, we've got. He's got plenty of teams you could point to. You can also. Kansas on paper, that I'm starting to fade Kansas in my mind, but to me it feels like Duke. Because of shout out to Missouri. They've exposed Kansas. If it's not one of the SEC top teams, I just think Duke has looked so good so far, and in my mind, I don't know how they don't get better, because the mistakes they've made have come off the back of just young players. And I don't know. We'll see. But that's who I'd pick.
My quick answer, my number one choice probably Auburn, just because we know who they are. Your weaknesses are essentially covered up because dudes know how to play. They've been playing together for years. They're older. They know who they are. They execute at a high level. They haven't really had a bad game. I mean, I know they have a loss, but
yeah,
I think that they're really good at being able to cover up their mistakes and just can flat out play and execute at a high level. And that's all you could really want.
Even if you want to go back
to
to the whole, they had such an embarrassing story and that whole distraction with the airplane getting rerouted and guys acting a fool thousands of feet in the air, and they turn around and go to Houston and still kick their butt. Like, that's a good team.
Yeah.
And that's a good coaching job by Bruce Pearl to corral that mess and then go into Cameron Indoor and be right there to the end. They played great in that game too. So yeah, Auburn's for real.
I think if I didn't pick an SEC team, I would probably bet on Marquette. They're pretty similar.
Marquette's looked really good.
Yeah, it's been interesting to watch them from afar. I think that they're going to be they're ranked 6th, so that's not by mistake. I'm just kind of like, there might be something cooking up in Milwaukee. So something to keep an eye on. Hey, other than that, I want you tell listeners, what have you been observing since, your team went down to Island Time, played some ball down there, got some big wins. I mean, put it on Baylor. Beat up on the stinky teams like Austin Peay. And then, led up to the point where they're beating up on teams like Miami tonight. So what's your takeaway so far for about a month at this point?
I mean, it's been really fun to watch. I mean, I think there's been so much of this team that just feels like classic Tennessee in how the defense looks. I mean, I think they were saying tonight on the broadcast that in the last 5 years in KenPom rankings, Tennessee's defense has been like first, third, and second. Like, the defense is always there.
Nationally.
I mean, it's not nationally. Yeah, not SEC. We're talking nationally.
Yeah.
And that's, that's always going to be there for Rick Barnes teams. And so the way we like locked down Baylor in that game down in the Bahamas a day after Baylor scored like 90 in double overtime, and just, I mean, absolutely locked them down. So the defense, that's not surprising. That's always been there, but it's as good as ever. And a lot of that's anchored by Zakai and Meshack and the new guys coming in who buy in to the system. I mean, they're just locked down. The offense is, I mean, last year was last year because of Dalton Knecht and him just being otherworldly. But I have not seen a Tennessee offense look this efficient all the way around. I don't ever, maybe. The rate and their shooting percentages are crazy good. I mean, I'm see if I can pull it up here, but the way they've shot, the way that they're running their offense, it has looked just crisp. I think they were saying tonight we beat Miami by 13, and this has been the tightest game Tennessee's had yet. I mean, we've just been firing on all cylinders. Everything is going right, going the way we want it to. Let's see, like right now, let's see, what are we shooting as a team? I mean, we're shooting 50% as a team. We're shooting almost 37.5% from 3. I mean, just, you can't ask for much better than how the offense has looked. Chaz Lanier he's
just advertised.
Better than advertised.
Come on.
He has stepped into the role that, I mean, Dalton Knecht had, I think I kind of said this on our last pod, but like Dalton Knecht had this ability to just like detonate and go, and it's like a bomb has gone off with how explosive. And Chaz is just kind of like, he's kind of quiet. He's kind of chill, super smooth on the court. He's not very like expressive or anything like that. He's got a really quick kind of like subtle jump shot, but man, he is just ice cold out there. He is just every night. It feels like he's hitting at least 4 to 6 3-pointers. He's got a great drive to the hoop. It just feels like he's very comfortable. I think another cool thing has been watching how Zakai has been able to. They're not leaning on Zakai nearly as much offensively, so he can. I mean, he's just facilitating. Especially tonight, there was a lot of him driving the lane and finding the open passer or finding the open guy for jump shots. And Igor Milicic has been exactly what we needed from a guy like him to be able to. He can kind of play all 5 positions, kind of a stretch 4 kind of guy. You can have him play the 5, have him play center and go real small and run. Because he can handle the ball, he can shoot, he can pass. He's kind of a utility knife for us, and he's his. It looked to me like he's getting more confident as well offensively, just with his shot. There's really not a whole lot to point to with Tennessee so far to not be excited about. I mean, we're killing everybody. We're shooting lights out, something as a team Tennessee really doesn't ever do. To me, if there's one thing which it's not even been a problem so far, but we lost JP Estrella for the season, our sophomore center. The team was really big on him. He played really well in the NCAA tournament last year. I think he broke his foot, I think is what it was. He's out for the season. And to me, if there's one thing that I'm watching on our team that makes me kind of nervous for specific opponents down the stretch, is we're just kind of thin in the posts. We've got Felix Okpara, who has been great so far in terms of what he brings defensively, crashing the boards, alley oops, stuff like that. Like I said, Milicic can kind of fill some roles and be a 4, be a 5, a little bit of like I said, utility knife. And Cade Phillips has come in and really stepped up. He's a little smaller to be a big man. I think he's like 6'9", but dude's got ups. I mean, he's catching at least 2 alley-oops a game right now, just throwing them down. And he's really physical. He's not afraid to, get down in the post and really muck it up. But then that's it. Like, that's who we've got. And so to me, the idea of we haven't had to face a team yet with formidable guys in the post. And so if there's anything that I feel like potentially could be a hole for us is just our post depth. We just don't have a ton of bodies there. And I'm afraid Estrella is losing him could potentially become a big problem. Hadn't been yet, and maybe it won't be. But that's really been the only thing that I've kind of been every game kind of watching to see, like, is anybody going to try to, get Akpar into foul trouble? Because if he gets into foul trouble, then it's like, then we're playing small the rest of the game pretty much, because Igor's he's more of like I said, he's a smaller, he could be a stretch 5 type guy. So that'll be interesting for me to see down the stretch. But other than that, I mean, goodness gracious, undefeated, killing everybody.
Like,
feels good.
Not much to complain about. Man,
feels good, man.
Must be nice to be on top from an athletic department standpoint.
Feels good. Yeah, man, everything's pretty much rosy for Tennessee Vols athletic department right now. So,
like, just as somebody who's born and raised in Knoxville, and just watching it, whether it's you all and just literally anybody around me, because all 99% of the people around me cheer for Tennessee, and it's great. like y'all have been through it when it comes to athletics in general. Like you deserve the pendulum to be swinging the other direction of like, hey, we're all clicking on cylinders at this point. And like I know we texted about this the other day, you know, basically saying like I want Kentucky to be there. I essentially said we're a football coach away of entering into what Tennessee is living out of football, basketball, baseball, quite frankly, if you want to say lower tier sport, but essentially everybody is competing and playing at a high level.
Mm-hmm.
You're winning conference games, you're winning conference championships, you're just competing for titles and making runs in postseasons. And I think when you're a fan or whatever level, if you're a student, like you're just like, dude, this is the dream. This is an absolute fever dream. If you want to call it the golden age, I mean, however you want to define it, go for it. I'm like, y'all are in it. And it is a fun ride. So I'm jealous. And that was a little prelude to my donkey of the week, but we'll get there. Hey, Cats, real quick, if you want to skip past this part, you're welcome to. But if you care anything about Kentucky and just want some inside knowledge, I think it's been really it's been a big joy and a big sigh of relief to hear your coach. Like Stoops used to be this way. He's gotten away from it, and it's probably a little bit of the new bias feeling a little bit with Pope. But go to Clemson, get smacked around. Clemson did what probably a lot of teams are going to do, which is like, all right, we want to make it a fist fight a little bit. And if we can get away with it, great. The old Rick Pitino saying, which is they can't call every foul. So go foul. Now, I don't think that was like Clemson's intention, but kudos to them. I think, in that game, they got outcoached and just straight up outplayed. For a lot of those guys, first time being on the road, like part of a team that, hey, when you're ranked and you play for a name brand, doesn't have to be a blue blood, just in general. You play for a team ranked top 10, you go on the road, like people are excited, people want to watch, people are going to be there, they're going to be juiced up, animated. And if they win, they're probably going to storm the court. That's exactly what happened. Yeah. That was one where losing that one on a Tuesday night whenever they played, then going into Saturday's game, yes, they beat Gonzaga in overtime, but going into it, I'm like, I was probably 60-40, 60 feeling better about Gonzaga because a lot of those guys, like I said, first time being on this kind of environment and team where it's a lot more animated. Everything's just moving quicker. A lot more scouting, I'm sure, went into this of like, all right, Kentucky's coming into town. Like, let's gear up, figure out a way to beat them. Yeah. They just never made adjustments, which it was a little surprising. But I also think they just didn't really know in some way how to counterpunch Clemson. They made a couple runs, and they even still had a chance at the end of the game. Kentucky's probably went in the last 4 games in a row not shooting well from 3, and it's kind of funny. They keep flashing Kentucky's graphic on like random games. It's not like Kentucky is the follow-up game, but they'll just show their graphic of like number 1 in the country in scoring, number 2 as a team from 3-point percentage, which I think it was inevitable. They were going to come down from averaging like 12 to 17 threes a game. It's kind of hard to keep up. Felt like it was going to happen at some point, come down to earth, but 4 games in a row, like, not great. Like, yeah, hitting 7 to 8. Okay, that's fine. But when when your strategy is we want to average and shoot at least 37 to 38 threes a game, a little bit different. Like, you got to hit. If you're going to average that many, you got to hit them.
Yeah.
But when you're going out and shooting 25 and you're not making, like, now it feels like, woo, we're really turn the burner down on that one instead of turn it up. So all I have to say is it was really relieving to hear Pope talk about it after the game and was like, yep, that was embarrassing. We expected that kind of punch, but kids don't really know what to do until they get hit in the mouth. And then you can draw up plays, scheme, all that kind of stuff in the moment, but at some point they got to go execute, and the guys they didn't go execute. But then you go to Gonzaga.
Clemson's a good team too. I mean, they had a deep run in the tournament last year. Yeah.
I mean, they're not just like some joke team. I mean, they could legitimately make the tournament again, make another run. They've got a lot of returning pieces. I mean, I can't think of the dude's name, but there's one of their star players, their star guy from last year, friggin' had 20 rebounds against Kentucky. Like, that's not a coincidence. So when one guy gets pulls an Oscar Sheboy game and gets 20 rebounds, like, well, you just got straight up flat
tip
out
of the hat to you, sir.
Yep. So go to Gonzaga. First
what
half.
What a game.
My God. First off, after 10 o'clock tip-off, this isn't the NCAA tournament. This is just a Saturday night. Big Papa's just up trying to watch ball. They're like, dude, come on. If this was the NCAA tournament or 24-hour marathon, RIP, different conversation. Sure. But not just for just game 9 of the season. So first half, once again, like a repeat of the Clemson game. However, Pope and them made adjustments at halftime, which was like, thank God. It wasn't the first game this season they've done that, but it was another pattern of we have a head ball coach who can make, in his staff, adjustment to halftime, whatever, and not just be like, well, we got beat in the first half.
Figure it out, guys.
That's where we lost the game, even though we made a comeback, lost by 4, but we lost in the first half. Like, all right, whatever, dude. So
down 16.5, and they come out and change up the defensive sets. They're throwing zones at Gonzaga, and they keep clanking threes and couldn't figure out how to break this. It was so impressive, man.
They took away the pick and roll action, ball screens, all that stuff, which they were cooking them. They were cooking Kentucky on ball screens. And it was just center roll up, EK, a screen, bang. You're not, they're putting you in a position where you either got to figure out, do I go with the guard and double team, leave my big man open, or do I stay with the big man? But if I do, guard's got to step. He's got to, Jackson Robinson or somebody beat off the dribble and easy layup. So they just went 1-3-1. And then after 3 passes, they would switch to man. And Gonzaga was like, what do we do? So by doing that, and it wasn't even 10 plus possessions. I think they said it was only 7. But by doing that, you throw them out of rhythm, and they're looking at their coach for 10 seconds or so of figuring out well, what do you want us to run? What do we do? How do we score? Eating up clock. You're getting stops and possessions, and that's how you go on a 16-2 run to start the second half. So it was great. Shout out Andrew Carr, 19 points, 8 of 12 shooting, 7 rebounds. Mari Williams had a nice game. Otegatron, shout out Otega. Hey, shout out Kirk Risa. Pretty much broke his foot. He had surgery.
Broke his foot, right?
He'll be back. And then Jackson Robinson. I think Jackson and Andrew Carr at this point are our 2 best players and need them to continue to be. Real quick, because I know we're running out of time. Do you have any dogs or donkeys that we need to give a shout out to? If you need to think on it, I can rip real quick.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay. So donkeys, shout out Mark Stoops and the entire stupid football team. Friggin' idiots over there. I cannot believe he's still the head ball coach. If you ever want to listen to me, you can talk to me privately. I don't know. I might just make a private episode at some point of me just yapping. Yeah, and shout out Mitch Barnhart, fellow donkey with Mark. Hell of a contract you gave him that he'd be owed $44 million to walk away. So that's not going to happen. Whatever, dude. It's just football. It's not my team. It's not my money. But yeah, other than that, dog. Yeah, I'll probably give it back to Anna Younger. Just out of nowhere. Yo, fellow dog.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
Easy dog pick. Easy. I just got one quick dog. UT AD, Danny White. Just gangster athletic director. got his teams winning all over the place. He chose John H. Coleman Heating Air to put in a new system at his home recently. So
that's right.
Shout out, dog of the week.
Shout out John H. Coleman and Big Danny supporting the biz, the home team.
Yep, that's right, baby.
One last donkey that he deserves at some point to say something on the show if we let him. Big Bill Reeser, again, you need to understand Dennis saved his job. I don't want to hear no stupid crap about like, their big recruiting class came in. It's like, whatever, man. You didn't win a single conference game last year. He saved his job. You're fine. All right, Big Papa.
We got a ways to go.
Yeah, they got a ways. We're out of here. See you.
Love y'all.